All right, Rabbi say good morning. Let us begin. My apologies for the delayed start. So we are picking up. We're beginning a new os today in Tzidkas Hatzaddik, os samech beis. So we are on page Kuf Mem Tes, the left-hand column of Berach Chassidus. We're skipping samech aleph for now. We will, Amir Hashem, come back to it. We'll see. We're going to do a different order for a particular reason. So take a look in the left-hand column, page Kuf Mem Tes. So the Rebbe writes as follows: Kishim shema'alos hakidusha huncholo l'chol zera Aaron v'tzadzav. It's actually for the Kohanim. Thank you. For the Kohanim. Good, better. Thank you. For the Kohanim, in the previous os, Rabbi Silber spoke about the idea of the special and unique status of the Kahuna. So the Kohanim should definitely go back and take a look at Samech Aleph. It was quite beautiful. Again, you'll see I'd like to do it after this Seif, because I think, you'll see why. In any event, so Rabbi Silber says the same way that Zera Aaron, the offspring of Aaron, inherited a particular and unique type of spiritual status. He says, Atzov Kol Adoros, Kach B'doma Lezeh Ma'alos Harbe Yesh B'midos Tovos Acheros, Shechunchulu B'miyuchad L'mishpachos Mesuyamos B'Yisrael. It's not just the Kohanim, it's not just Zera Aaron, who went ahead and inherited certain milas, certain qualities, and certain behaviors and certain characteristics. But the truth is, you find certain, he calls it mishpachas, so that we're gonna expand that term a little bit. But there are certain mishpachas, certain families within Klal Yisrael, who also inherited certain unique qualities, characteristics, and traits. He says, "V'kulam zochu kvar hatzadikim gedolei hadoros hakol mi'unatlu." So what's interesting is we're going to see what started as unique traits actually associated first with individuals. And then those very same traits went ahead and were kind of acquired by mishpachos, by families. Those same traits then became the purview, ultimately again, of the tzaddikim, of the righteous. And once they became the purview of the righteous, then they became accessible and attainable to all. So these midos, which originally began as belonging to a particular individual, then became associated with a particular mishpacha. Then the tzaddikim, the righteous of every generation, were able to tap into this particular midah, were able to tap into this particular koach. And by the way, once the tzaddikim of every generation are able to tap into this koach, then of course what that means is what? That each of us are able to tap into it as well. He says, Kol echad kana b'nafsho la'atzmos ma'alosa miyuchedes ad shenesta lechilik me'etzem ahuso u'me'meila zachu lanchilan l'bnei nacharetz. So this is quite an introduction. So there's, just like the kahuna, Zera Aaron, has certain unique characteristics and traits which are associated with Zera Aaron, so too throughout the years there are other unique traits and qualities which were acquired by individuals. Those individuals then shared them with their mishpachos. Those very same qualities became accessible to the tzaddikim, to the righteous of every single generation. And then afterwards, once it's accessible to the tzaddikim of every generation, they become accessible even to the regular individuals as well, who are willing to go ahead and work to acquire them. We'll say now what Rabbi Silber is going to do over the course. You're going to see Samech Beis is a little bit of a longer one. He's going to go through each of these midos, who they started with, in other words, who was the first to acquire this particular midah, and then ultimately, again, what's incredible is we're going to see a whole list of characteristics and qualities that each of us has the ability to integrate into our personalities as well. So we'll spend a few extra moments. Let's speak about the first one. So you see the introduction over here is Shem Yisrael Zacha Bo Yaakov. Kamoshe Vasinu Be'inyan Malos Shem Yisrael. So the first Maila, the first quality, we'll call it the first level of accomplishment, is what the Rebbe calls Yisrael. Now, before we even explain what that is, let's explain what it is. Hamora Akach Sheshoresh Toldaso Shakol Yehudi Hu B'Kedusha. So the Rebbe posits that the Maila, the level of Yisrael, is the level of personalistic Kedusha. Yisrael represents a recognition that internally I possess an incredible and overwhelming reservoir of Kedusha. That there is holiness which is embedded inside of me that very often you won't be able to see until something dramatic or traumatic occurs that ultimately brings this Kedusha to the forefront. He says, who is the first person who acquired this level of Yisrael? Zocha Yaakov Avinu. Yaakov was the first one to access this level called Yisrael. Bekinyan be'etzem benafsho, ad shenikra mepi Hashem yisbarach v'shem zeh, u'memela zacha b'horish ma'ila shem zeh, l'chol zaro acharav yeh mishieh. So we'll say this is incredible. So the first level the Rebbe explains is Yisrael. And Yisrael, he explains, sheshoresh taldaso shal kol Yehudi hu b'kedusha. That at my core, I possess an immeasurable level of Kedusha. A Kedusha that you may not see day in and day out. A Kedusha that might not even be manifest day in and day out, but a Kedusha that is there, that is brought out from dramatic circumstances. Remember again, when does Yaakov get his name Yisrael? When is that identity, right, discovered or conferred? Really not conferred, but when is it uncovered or discovered within him? After the struggle with the Malach. So remember again, he spends the entire night struggling with this mysterious Ish. He's very badly wounded. But yet he remains standing the next morning. So already many of the Mefarshim already point out that this story is such an incredible metaphor in general for the notion of the struggle of the Jew. According to the Ramban, it's the notion of the struggle of the Jew with the nations of the world, right? The representation of anti-Semitism, that although there are always those who want to hurt us, and they do hurt us, because Yaakov Avinu is badly maimed and injured the next morning, we still remain standing. But on a more ruchni level, it represents the idea that we constantly encounter struggles with our ruchnius. We're constantly struggling. We're constantly overwhelmed. We're constantly doing battle. And very often, in these spiritual battles, I am harmed. I am hurt. I am maimed. I am injured. I don't emerge unscathed. Yet, somehow, some way, I summon up the courage and the strength from within, and I remain standing. That, says Rabbi Tzaddik, is the power of Yisrael. That's the midah of Yisrael. Kisarisa Elokim va'anashim batuchal. Yisrael is a name that represents the ability to persevere over struggle. External struggle, internal struggle, whatever comes my way, I have the ability to meet that particular challenge. The first person to acquire that midah, says Reb Tzaddik, was none other than Yaakov Avinu. But again, says Reb Tzaddik, after Yaakov, now of course, after Yaakov Avinu acquires it, remember again in Reb Tzaddik's model, the way it works is, there's the tzaddik who discovers, uncovers, and acquires a particular midah. But once the tzaddik discovers it, then what? He's able to ultimately share it with his offspring. So Yaakov Avinu discovers it, but then ultimately shares the power of Yisrael with each of us. So we'll have to stop over here, but we'll pick up in Miraz Hashem with this first midah tomorrow as well. Shkoyach. Thank you.